Well, what's going on, everybody? It has been just a little bit since I've done my last episode. We'll get into that in a second, but I'm glad I'm back. There's a lot that's happened since I've been gone. We're not going to cover everything, but obviously, as we do here, we cover what happens weekly from the past week. So we kind of are going to get what's happened the past week, couple weeks, maybe in some sports and some aspects. But we're gonna go right back into it, like we have never left. This is your Sports Digest. I'm your host, Alex McNinch. First of all, I haven't recorded in a month, mainly because if you know, obviously I'm a full-time student, so I have other obligations that are more required to be attended to than being able to stop, write down, record, edit, make graphics, post all this stuff, promote myself, whatever. That takes a back seat to me towards the time of year. But everything is done for now. I'm able to kind of be loose and do it whenever I want to. So bear with me if I'm a little rough and a little rusty as I get back into it. And from a lot of you guys know that the past 4 months of my life have been a little wonky, little weird, abnormal. Not really the way that I expected it to all go out and kind of be. But we keep moving through, and this has kind of been a saving grace for me to help keep me sane a little bit. And it wasn't until everybody got their Spotify Wraps and I got a bunch of people that reached out and sending me screenshots that I was their most listened to podcast on Spotify. So I appreciate you guys. There were a couple of you that did it, so that was cool to see. But yeah, as I said, it's kind of been a little weird, wonky. So you get down yourself a lot, and you think, well, it's not growing the way you want it to. How much do you really want to do it anymore? But I think a lot of people sending me that stuff saying that they listen to my thing for X amount of minutes or hours, and it's like, dang. So I do have people that actually listen to the show. It's good to see. But today we're just gonna go back into it, and over this holiday season, we're gonna have one per week, maybe an emergency podcast depending on certain things, because we all know that on this podcast, if you listen to it on a regular basis, I like to say stuff, and then the next day something the complete opposite happens, or breaking news happens 2 days later, and I'm shit out of luck for the next week until I record. So there might be some emergency podcasts. Maybe it might only be like a 20-30 minute thing, not the full breakdown of everything, but we're going to try to do that. We're going to try to be more active. My social media, my Instagram account has been followed by 1,000 bot followers, so it looks like I'm the most popular podcaster when I'm really not. It's just a bunch of people from foreign countries that are following me as bots. So that's unfortunate. That kind of account is ruined, but I'll still post through that. I'll still post through my personal one for a lot of you who may follow me and know me personally. I'll post through that. I'll post through my TikTok. I'm going to start trying to upload clips to TikTok and YouTube to try to gain more people to watch it, I guess. And I'll try to be more active on Twitter maybe. We'll see. Can't ever make a promise, but I've gotten a couple of texts asking why I don't do this anymore, and I just, I need to take a break for a second just because things, like I said, had been going 150 miles per hour for me, and then next thing you know, the car goes at a screeching halt, and you gotta pick yourself up and keep going. But we got a lot to talk about, and I'm recording this, as you all know, the night prior, sometimes the morning of, but a lot of the times night prior. So I've got a lot of basketball on my mind to talk about, and some other things that have happened tonight that I need to talk about. Let's start out as we do normally in the NBA. And don't worry, if you are seeing the graphic of this, yes, I am going to be talking about the college football playoff and my opinions on everything as a Florida fan. So if you wanna get there, I'm gonna have the timestamp in the description of the video on YouTube or in the Spotify description. I'll have wherever I end up doing that at. it'll be in there so that you can skip to it right now. Not everybody necessarily wants to talk about the NBA or listen to me talk about the NBA. So just get ready for that and look for that if you want to just primarily listen to that. But we'll talk about the NBA first because Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, he's made some questionable calls. Personally, to me, he's made some questionable calls. But there will be the occasional thing that he does, and it's like, you know what? I think you're doing a really good thing. The way he organized and planned out the NBA bubble, sure, it seemed like the guys didn't really want to do it. But at the end of the day, we got basketball. We got it in a safe and efficient manner, and we got it completed. The play-in tournament has been a huge success so far. So when they announced this in-season tournament this summer, a lot of people were questioning, including myself, like, how is this going to work? What's going on? And we've talked about it kind of in its early stages before when I had last recorded and talked, kind of being like, I don't really know what's going on. I'm not understanding. Well, now we're in the tournament quarterfinals, heading into the semifinals and championship game this week. So we'll talk about the games that have happened in the quarterfinals that have occurred. So for a baseline, the four quarterfinal games happened Monday and Tuesday of this week. The semifinals are set for Thursday night, championship game on Saturday night, primetime on ABC, I believe. So let's talk about it all first. The four teams that have advanced are the Indiana Pacers, the Milwaukee Bucks, the New Orleans Pelicans, and the Los Angeles Lakers. Let's start Monday night. Kind of talk about that real quick. The Indiana Pacers outlasted the Boston Celtics, who are leading the league. Well, not anymore, but at the time had the best record in the NBA. And on this podcast before, I've mentioned this Indiana Pacers team being one of those young, hungry groups. They got an incredible plethora of young talent mixed with veterans, and it's all led by budding superstar Tyrese Halliburton. I think he's becoming one of the NBA's darlings because of his connection with the media, the connection with the fans, engagement on social media. I think a lot of people are loving Tyrese Halliburton. And on Monday night, he got his first triple-double of his career, 26, 10, and 13, hitting 5 threes. Looked fantastic. Obviously, the pivotal point of that game, he took over and made that game his own, hitting a couple of big shots, especially an and one three, fading forward, which is just stupid. He looked incredible, was getting the crowd into it. The playoff atmosphere in the arena was unbelievable. The bench was losing their mind. You could tell people cared about it. But you look at this Pacers team, Tyrese Halliburton's there. You got Obi Toppin, another young guy. Benedict Mathurin, who I was very high on out of the draft. He's awesome off the bench. Aaron Nesmith, a former Celtic that got traded in the Malcolm Brogdon trade, coming off the bench as well there. You're missing a couple of guys in your rotation for the most part. But then you've got these other vets coming in, Buddy Hield, Miles Turner, and then who they got this offseason, Bruce Brown from the Denver Nuggets. We talked about that when he signed there, how maybe it could be a questionable overpay, but for the impact he has on your team on the defensive end, it's worth it. And so far, it's worked out great. You know, Tatum and Brown both combined for 62. Kristaps Porzingis didn't play, so that's obviously going to be the true outlier there. But we cannot shy away from the fact that this Pacers team outlasted the haymakers that Boston were throwing. The Pacers ended up hitting 19 threes that game. Looked really, really good. Played good team basketball. Forced turnovers and scored off of them, having 17 points off of turnovers. Looked really, really solid. Indiana moving on to the second round to take on the winner of the Knicks and the Bucks. As we mentioned previously, the Milwaukee Bucks advanced. They won on Tuesday night, 146-122. A little bit more of an offensive affair in this one. Game high for Julius Randle on the losing side of things with 41 points. But if you look at the Milwaukee Bucks, you're getting your production from your two stars. Giannis with 35, 8, and 10. Damian Lillard 28, 3, and 7, both doing their thing. And then the role players. I guess you can kind of say Chris Middleton's a role player, but your role players are getting you the necessary amount of points you need to overput what your stars are doing. Chris Middleton with 14 points. I think the saving grace and one of the biggest, if not the biggest steal of the entire offseason is getting Malik Beasley on the contract that he did. Malik Beasley in the past month has been shooting, I think, 41% from three, which before the trade deadline last year when he was in Utah, he was shooting at a super efficient clip as well. I think he was leading the league in three-point percentage off the bench before the trade deadline. Obviously, he ended up going to the Lakers, falling out of the rotation there, really not doing too great. But here in Milwaukee, he's found his home, hitting 6 of his 10 threes taken tonight for 18 points, being a menace on the defensive end as well. And then off the bench, you got your two guys that are really kind of your mainstays on this bench in Bobby Portis and Campaign. Shout out Memphis. This Bucks team, we all knew how good it was going to be. We just questioned the depth, and we questioned how effective is this bench going to be. The same questions are to be asked about the Celtics, and it's already been rumored that they're going to be active around the trade deadline. There's some names in question there of who could get traded, but Milwaukee obviously outlasting New York's any effort on the offensive end. They just, frankly, New York didn't get enough production off the bench and from their role players. I mean, Julius with 41, Jalen with 24, RJ with 23, and your other two starters had a combined 2 points between Mitchell Robinson and Quentin Grimes. And then off your bench, DiVincenzo had 7, Hart had 11, but Emmanuel Quickley had 7 points on 1 for 7 shooting, and Isaiah Hartenstein had 4 points. So you're expecting more off your bench. You just didn't get it. Milwaukee ends up moving on and heading to the quarterfinals. Also on Monday, now moving over to the Western Conference side of the bracket, the Pelicans beat the Kings in the semifinal round, and this game really started off as a lopsided thing for the Kings. I think they went on like a 18-6 run to start the game, and it was like, oh no, New Orleans is about to get shot out of the gym here by these guys. But credit to New Orleans, credit to Willie Green and the guys on the team kind of just sticking through it and keep pushing, knowing, hey, they're throwing their haymaker, time for us to throw ours back. And they definitely did that in the second quarter, outscoring them by 9 and then pushing through with that lead till the end. Brandon Ingram, a game-high 30 points. I guess not game-high, but you could say game-high because he's on the winning side with 30 points. De'Aaron Fox also had 30 points as well, but you're getting a lot from your starting lineup and your supporting cast. Zion only had 10 points, sure, but when Valanciunas is giving you 18, Herb Jones is giving you 23, that's big. CJ McCollum giving you 17, who has just returned from a collapsed lung type of injury, I believe. So that's a tough thing to come back from. And then Trey Murphy, who had just also returned recently a couple of games ago. I think this was his second game back, coming back from a knee surgery that he had in the offseason, or knee rescoping. He's giving you 16 off the bench. That's what makes this Pelicans team super dangerous is you've got your starters and you got all of those guys. You got elite wing defenders in Murphy and Herb Jones. You got Alvarado to come off the bench and do his work off the bench as a good defender and a playmaker. Dyson Daniels can get in the mix a little bit as well. You just need health. That's really all you've been wanting is health. Jordan Hawkins has been awesome for this team. But when Herb Jones is giving you 23 and he's expected to give you 6 every night, that's a good way to win. That's a good recipe to success, I guess you say. But for the Kings, I mean, again, this is the in-season tournament, so not as many people really care compared to others. Sure, they had the home court and they wanted to win on the home court for their fans, but you can't walk away from this disappointed. Sabonis had a triple-double. Malik Monk with 21 off the bench, but quite frankly, you didn't get enough from your other role players. I mean, Kevin Huerter had 12, but he shot 2 for 7 from 3, which is uncharacteristic. Harrison Barnes had 4 points and took 3 shots, all from 3, and 34 minutes played. That's just not what you can have. Keegan Murray was in foul trouble the entire game, never really got going, having 14 points still, but never really got going. Credit to this New Orleans Pelicans team, as I mentioned. They move on to take on the Los Angeles Lakers, who just finished their game as I'm recording this against the Phoenix Suns. Lakers winning this one 106-103. Really, really solid game. The Lakers were running away with it in the first half. Phoenix really making a valiant effort in the second half. Ended up taking the lead at some point. I think they had a 35-point third quarter that really turned this game around for them. Kevin Durant doing his thing with 31, 7, and 4, hitting 4 threes, a couple big shots. He was in foul trouble along with Devin Booker, who had 21, 11, and 6, also in foul trouble with 5 fouls. And you're dealing with other guys. Grayson Allen had 21 as well. That helps out a lot. Eric Gordon, not as efficient, being one of your reliable role players. He wasn't as great. Nurkic was in foul trouble as well. But you look at this Lakers team, you get your 2 stars, LeBron with 31, 8, and 11, AD 27 and 15. And the big part for this team that really helped them get to where they were, Austin Reeves coming off the bench with 20 points. And then you're also getting the effectiveness from Rui Hachimura coming into the game at times. Cam Reddish's defensive energy. Taurean Prince hitting some shots early. You got this energy from this team moving forward. There was one part of the game at the very, very end, obviously the most controversial part. The Lakers were inbounding up 3, up 2, something like that. I think it was up 2. And the ball was knocked loose. Austin Reeves and Kevin Durant both dove to the floor. Austin Reeves was calling for timeout when he didn't have control of the ball. The refs granted him timeout when the ball was still loose and rolling away, and they granted the Lakers timeout. Very, very controversial that became the outcome of the game. Eventually had to inbound it again, foul, give the Lakers more free throws, which they split the pair. Came down, Kevin Durant airballed a 3, but the Suns had possession of the ball as they're calling the timeout. Grayson Allen saves it from going out of bounds, and instead of getting 2 points or maybe even 3, it switches it over to the Lakers' ball. And that's obviously going to be a point of emphasis when talking about this game. But, the Suns really kind of gave this one away at the start. And, throughout the entire game, 20-9 on the turnover count. You just can't have that. There was a little bit of home cooking from the refs, as some would say, but I wouldn't even call it like that. The Suns hit more threes than the Lakers did on less attempts. It came down to the final plays, and it came down to the turnovers that you had at the beginning of the game that eventually screwed you towards the end. The points off turnovers, the Lakers just capitalized on that. So the Lakers move on to take on the New Orleans Pelicans. As I mentioned, those 2 games will happen on Thursday. Pacers, Bucks, Pelicans, Lakers. Those are in Las Vegas. So, yes, the 2 games will happen on Thursday in Las Vegas, one on TNT, one on ESPN. They're going to do a split broadcast, I think, which is going to be pretty cool. And then on Saturday night will be the championship game, also in Los Angeles. Winning team gets $500,000 per player. So that's obviously something that a lot of these younger guys are really looking forward to. Maybe the guys on the 2-way contracts getting a little bit of extra energy on the bench and cheering on their guys so they can get an extra little bonus added onto it as well. But that's the NBA in-season tournament. I'm really enjoying it. Given the playoff atmosphere, that's all you can ask for is give the game something for the fans to care about in December, right? Because you hear the saying, NBA season doesn't start till after Christmas, right? Give the fans something they want early on so that they can care about what is going on the court. Because as a fan of a team that right now is absolutely in the dumps at the current moment, you got to find a way to make it interesting. And speaking of that team that's in the absolute dumps, let's talk about the Grizzlies real quick. And I don't even remember the last time we might have talked. I think we might have just won our first game after we talked last. That's kind of funny if that's been that long. Well, there hasn't been much of a change. We've won 4 since. It's been a shit show to say the least. Constant injuries in and out. Marcus Smart getting hurt. Luke Kennard having a bone bruise. He's going to be out for a little bit more. Marcus Smart has the ankle. He should probably return around next couple. I'd say a 2-week window. He should be back. And then obviously the one that matters the most coming back on the 19th or 21st. We don't know which day yet. He's eligible to come back to the 19th, but I wouldn't be surprised if they don't let him play until the 21st when they go back home instead of playing him in New Orleans. Obviously, Ja Morant returning. That'll be a big impact. But when you look at this team, it's been a struggle finding ways to defend. You're giving up a lot of threes. It seems like every single night somebody's shooting a career high against you. And that's just not what you can have to be successful. Right now, sitting at 5-14, second to last in the Western Conference. But realistically, you're only 4 games out of a play-in spot, right? So you need some good momentum to find a way. And we're starting to get some good momentum here right now. The Grizzlies doing a big thing, as we last mentioned about Bismack Biyombo, I think was the last time we talked about it. That shows you how long it's been. Bismack Biyombo has been a good impact for this team, being a big screen-setting guy, finally getting Xavier Tillman back from injury. Derrick Rose finally healthy again now after some lingering knee and ankle issues. He's back, but one of the biggest impacts for this team has been the emergence of Vince Williams Jr. on a 2-way contract, and then the signing of Jalen Noel around this time last week on a 10-day contract. He now has a second 10-day contract. He has been a spark plug for this team off the bench, was super efficient for this team in a win against Dallas, and same with Vince Williams Jr. He is being the wing defender that we have always wanted. Guy who's just high energy, high motor, has a nick for the ball, is not afraid to get into it with whoever. He was going toe-to-toe with Kevin Durant, talking shit to him. Like, that's what you want. As a fan, that's the type of guy you want to root for. And Vince Williams Jr. is coming out there and really, really, really proving himself right. Jalen Noel coming out there and proving himself right to maybe get that NBA contract. Now, this boils down to, hey, you've got 3 guys who potentially deserve contracts. Vince is on a 2-way, so you don't have to worry about that too much, but his play time is going to be limited. Here come the 45-game window that he's maximum allowed to play before being on a standard contract. Bismack Biyombo, he's been your hardship signing while Ja is out, so there's going to be at the decision-making with him, which there's no chance in hell that we release him after his impact he's had so far. And then Jalen Noel, he's gotten a second 10-day contract. I think you're kind of pushing this one farther down the line to make a decision here. You got to see what he gives you in a larger sample size here. If he continues to give you this 10 points off the bench, good ball movement, energy on the defense, loose balls, he's always over it. Like, if that's what he's going to give you, it's hard to look at him who's going to cost you $1.5 million and then look at a guy, say Zaire Williams, a young guy who is starting to kind of find his footing a little bit, but still has been one of the worst defenders in the NBA, plus-minus wise. You look at him. You look at Jake LaRavia, who can't stay healthy. You look at Kenneth Lofton Jr., who has his own issues off the court, dealing with his weight, and then on the court, not really performing at the level they expected him. You look at some of those guys, and you're like, hey, unfortunately, we got to move on. But then you can also look at guys like Steven Adams. You're not going to get him the rest of the year. He's coming back on an expiring deal next year with a brand new knee, and it's like, how much can we trust this is going to work? Why don't we cash in on an asset now to be able to get future stuff? Same with, I guess you could say Brandon Clark, but Brandon Clark's looking like he's rehabbing pretty well, and we're going to keep him. But you could say the same for, my guy John Conchar. There's an article that came out. In that article, it said the Grizzlies were heavy on Dorian Finney-Smith, which that would have made my life if Dorian Finney-Smith became a Grizzly as a Florida fan. But it also said in that article that the Lakers, the Warriors, and the Celtics were monitoring John Conchar's situation here in Memphis and, how that's outplaying. And he's on a team-friendly deal, honestly. So, we're looking at a guy who is your bridge 10th, 11th man in the rotation. Could the Memphis Grizzlies try to move on from that? I really hope not. As a guy who has a connection with him personally, I would hate to see that happen. I really don't want to see Conch go, but, at the end of the day, the NBA is a business and you can't really control. Sometimes you're going to trade your favorites. We'll talk about the MLB later and Mookie Betts being traded. You sometimes have to trade some of your favorites, and it's tough, but you got a bunch of roster spots to make up here by the time the 19th rolls around. And, you can push that date as far as you can, but once that time actually comes, you got to make decisions. And you got 2 guys that you have to keep on the roster. one of those guys you don't have to sign to a new contract. But Noel, if he continues to play, he's just got to stay. There's no way you can't keep him after that. So the Grizzlies are really in a weird spot right now come the next couple weeks. But we got a game against Detroit tonight as a part of the the makeup games for the in-season tournament since we didn't make it. So we played the Pistons. The Pistons, oh my God, they suck. And then, you've got Minnesota and Dallas at home, Houston on the road, Houston at home, at OKC, and then obviously at New Orleans. That's when Ja is eligible to come back. But it's been cool to see some of these guys really emerge. Desmond Bane really taking on that role. Jaren Jackson Jr. finally having a really, really, really good game. They're starting to see two. Which we figured that would happen eventually. But once they start to figure it out, and these other role players around them are hitting their shots, that's kind of been the issue. Aldama's hit or miss some nights. David Roddy's hit or miss some nights. Zaire Williams hit or miss some nights. Once your role players are hitting your shots, it's all gonna work out. And then again, you just got to look at it and say, hey, this guy Marcus Smart, Defensive Player of the Year, he's coming back soon. Oh, this guy Luke Kennard, he's going to come back at some point. He's one of the best three-point shooters in the league. He'll be back. Xavier Tillman's finally back. Hey, that Brandon Clark guy, there's a chance he comes back at the end of the season. Oh, and then we got this superstar, all-star MVP candidate in Ja Morant that's coming back in 2 weeks. So it's a brand-new team. And if you know anything about Grizzlies basketball, if you're a Grizzlies fan and you keep up with it, Taylor Jenkins' defense throughout the years have never really kicked in until the December-January time frame. It's taken these guys a little bit to get into the system and get underneath it. It takes them a little time to make the adjustments. But every single year we look at October, November and question, why is his defense like this? Why is it this bad? And then December, January, February, you're like, oh my gosh, we're the best team in the league. You just got to trust the process and watch how it goes. There's a lot of things behind the scenes that a casual fan does not know. But obviously, if you're the casual fan, you don't get to see any of that some of us do behind the scenes. Talking about some of the other teams in the NBA I like. We talked about the Magic, I think, earlier in this podcast, or not in this podcast, but in the season that is the NBA season. We talked about it on another podcast, the Magic being one of those sleeper teams. And they have fulfilled all the expectations that I had about being a sleeper team. They're awesome, led by Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, Mo Wagner off the bench. Jonathan Isaac is now healthy. Cole Anthony's been a revelation. Jalen Suggs has been a revelation. That team's really, really good, really well coached. I love Jamal Mosley for them. Magic team to watch out for. Timberwolves leading the Western Conference in the best record right now. Things are starting to click for them. People are healthy. Things are starting to click, and that's a lot of good signs for them. As much as I, don't really care for them, they have my favorite basketball player of all time on it, and Mike Conley. So I have to be happy for him and how he's playing with some of those guys. And Anthony Edwards is one of those guys where it's like, damn, I hate he's so good, but he is just so good. So it's hard not to root for him either. And then Kyle Anderson, another Grizzly legend, on that team as well. They're playing really good ball right now. Chris Finch is finally starting to figure out, hey, I need to make rotation decisions and I need to make adjustments in the game. Because if you think about the time in the series when the Timberwolves played the Grizzlies, that was the last thing he ever thought he had to do was make adjustments, blowing multiple leads in that series. So that team's starting to finally come around as is. And then the other team, I think a lot of people saw this one coming, Oklahoma City, really breaking out. Chet Holmgren has been even better than I expected this first year. Obviously, he missed his first season due to that foot break that he suffered in a Pro-Am run over the summer. Missed his entire rookie season. So this is his now first full season. He has been, like I said, just outreaching the expectations of what I had for him in his first couple months in the NBA, really playing full-time, having to go against certain guys every single night. He outduels certain players, and it's like, man, this guy's even better than we expected it to be, especially with all the hype around Wembanyama, who is performing very, very well, as is suffering his first injury here, really. I think it's a little hamstring or a groin. It's just nothing major, but finally hitting like that, hey, we're in the NBA, it's a long season, and this is how we're doing early on. Chet's starting to find his groove. Shea is awesome for that team, obviously. Jalen Williams is really, really solid. Isaiah Joe is shooting a really good clip from three. Obviously, there's some other things off the court that's going on with the Thunder that may or may not have to do with their Australian point guard. But I don't want to necessarily get into it. Again, this is not my lane. If you know anything about me, if you're listening to this first time, this is not my lane to talk about anything that goes on off the court. But we all know what's going on with Josh Giddey right now. We let that stay on the side and we don't talk about that. I just want to just point out how he has not had any legal action or game suspended or missed any time playing. But there's certain somebody in Memphis that has immediately upon doing something wrong. I'm not saying anything about the NBA hating Memphis or not. That's just a conspiracy theorist to me. All jokes aside, kind of, not really. Hope the situation gets figured out because this Oklahoma City team's way too good to have any of these other distractions around them to kind of take them off their rail. They've been a really good team this year, but the last thing we're going to talk about here in the NBA really quickly is about a team that sucks at everything right now. And it's been multiple years in the making. Everyone has seen this except for the entire front office, it seems like. And that's the Chicago Bulls. I'm sorry. I know one of my good buddies, big Bulls fan, but he's been preaching it for a while. Why do we suck this bad and we haven't done anything to improve the future, right? You got Zach LaVine. You got DeMar DeRozan. You just extended Vucevic. You're extending these other young guys, right? You got to blow it up. It's just not working out. They are terrible right now. I love Billy Donovan. Billy Donovan is my guy. I will die on the hill for Billy Donovan. But he just has no control of some of these guys' behavior right now. Adam Levine, holy hell. That tells you what time it is that I'm recording. Shout out Adam Levine anyways. Zach LaVine, really struggling right now as a character. DeMar DeRozan struggling on the court. Vucevic struggling on the court. You got these young guys. Kobe White's been awesome. Dosunu's been good. Caruso is going to be a trade candidate for sure. He is one of the better perimeter defenders in the league, and his contract is awesome if you're a contending team. Patrick Williams, not the greatest so far, but he's starting to find some strides here. I think it's just time. You got to make a move. Why are you sitting in mediocrity for so long? You've got all these pieces, especially DeMar being on his last year of his contract. Cash your chips in. Zach LaVine's got multiple years on his contract. Teams like that, cash it in. Vucevic, he's not able to get signed until or traded until I think like next week. But after that, now that's a multi-year contract for a big that teams can use. I know a team that might want to be able to use them. Cash those chips in. Caruso, cash it in. Drummond, cash it in. All of these guys are wantable. That's not even a word. Well, who cares? These are assets that people want, right? These aren't just like your average Joe playing basketball, right? Like these are actual all-star players, former all-stars, former champions that you can put into a trade market and teams will jump all over it. I know there's been saying that Zach LaVine has no market. That's a lie. There's always a market for an all-star player, no matter what the cost is. Every team wants something like that. A team is one move away from winning a championship at every point in time, it seems like. So why wouldn't a team want that? Cash your chips in. I feel bad for Billy Donovan because he's got to coach some of this crap right now. He can't really play his young. He can only play his young guys so much because there's so many older guys you have to play in order to boost their stock. But I'm tired of watching this team sit in mediocrity and not go anywhere, but just a straight plane, maybe a little downhill curve. But you never hit rock bottom because you're not that bad, but you're not that good. And I can't sit here and watch it anymore without having to make any moves with any of those guys. So, yes, the Bulls need to blow it up. I'm not saying the Grizzlies are in the same state. Obviously, we have other circumstances. The Pistons might want to look at moving a bunch of their guys. I know Jaden Ivey's not too happy about his playing time. It's rough to look at right now, but Welcome to the NBA the year round. It's the drama, the reality TV show that is the National Basketball Association. All right. Well, now we're at the point of the podcast that I think everybody's tuning into. Obviously, this past week, we had championship weekend in college football, and there were a bunch of really good games. Washington and Oregon, Alabama, Georgia, Louisville, Florida State. Not really the best of games if you're an outsider fan, because that was the most boring football game I've watched in a while. But we had a bunch of those games going on and a lot of playoff implications on the line. Selection Sunday is something that's known in college basketball, but it's also a thing in college football for the college football playoffs. And with Washington winning on Friday, we knew they were in. Michigan beat Iowa, we knew they were in. It was now down to Alabama beat Georgia, Texas won theirs, Florida State won theirs, they're undefeated. What two of those three teams in a combination? Hell, you can even think about Georgia still being in it. This isn't even ruling Georgia out. What are those four teams, the two teams that you can put into this playoff? What are you rolling with? Well, with this logic, Alabama and Georgia should cancel each other out, and you slide Texas in. But you can't put Texas in over Alabama necessarily because of the whatever strength of schedule that they make up or whatever it is, right? But Texas has the head-to-head victory, so that should make sense. And then you look at Florida State, it's like this is an undefeated team. They've had multiple ranked wins, including an SEC-ranked win at the beginning of the season. They're an undefeated conference champion. They should obviously get in, right? The committee says not. To hell with that shit. We're going with Alabama. And as a Florida fan, this is my standpoint, right? As much as I hate Florida State, I also keep it real. And I understand that there's a more deserving side of the playoff bracket and a better matchup game-wise side of the bracket. If you're looking at all the players who are available to play, sure, you got the best matchups that you possibly want. If you're going most deserving, Florida State has to be that 4 seed. And it pains me to say it, as much as I danced on their grave on Sunday all day, and Georgia's grave too. Don't get it twisted. I was dancing all over Georgia's grave Saturday night and Sunday afternoon. It was a glorious time for me to watch both of my most hated teams in college football not make the playoffs after being so good all year. But realistically, you cannot leave out an undefeated Power 5 champion in college football for the playoff. They're the first team now that has been undefeated and not make a playoff game out of the Power 5 conferences. And now you look at this and you're saying, hey, guess what? I mean, indirectly, whether they say it or not, you're looking at it and saying, hey, the SEC overrules anything the ACC does. Now, you can make the argument. You look at Florida State, you look at their wins, you look at Alabama, you look at their wins, you look at the strength of their wins, and you can go, okay, Alabama's got stronger wins than Florida State. But at the end of the day, Florida State's still got more wins than Alabama. So it's such a tedious thing. And again, as a Florida fan, my reaction is, oh, they actually left them out. I can't believe it. I went to the Florida State game, and that Florida State team 100% is not the same team. Whether you want to admit it or not as a Florida State fan, it is not the same team at all, guaranteed, right? But you cannot sit here and say that one player is the reason that you're leaving an entire team out. And they announced the Heisman finalists, and Jordan Travis isn't there. If your logic is this is a different team without Jordan Travis, then Jordan Travis should be a Heisman finalist, right? Do those two things not make sense? And again, this is coming from a Florida fan here. I should be shitting on their grave, dancing, stomping, saying, ha, who gives a shit? But no. Like the reality is you're an undefeated Power 5 conference team. You have multiple ranked wins. You have to put them in. Flip side, Alabama now gets in. Alabama has beaten Georgia who has been the consensus pretty much number one overall team the entire year. Everybody knows it. Georgia was the best team all season. Alabama catches them and beats them. They also got multiple ranked wins, right? But they also have close, terrible team wins, right? Same could be said for Florida State. I just don't like the logic of because a player is hurt, you cannot put them in. Because how much did that affect Ohio State in 2015 or 14 when they got in and they were at their third-string quarterback? And they ended up winning the national championship. What was the conversation then? Sure, you can look at teams like Cincinnati and TCU being the undefeated teams that had played all year. TCU, the biggest one, being the undefeated team in the Power 5 that ended up getting their heads kicked off by Georgia in the national championship game. But again, that's the national championship game. You never know what can happen any given Saturday. I mean, you look at Brock Glenn and you don't think, hey, this is Jordan Travis at all. And shout out Brock Glenn, shout out Lausanne High School in Memphis. But it's just not Jordan Travis. You understand that, right? But as a guy who watched Norvell closely at Memphis, it pains me for him because I know how good of a coach he is. I know how much he coached these guys. I know how much those guys are playing for him. Again, this is coming from a Florida fan, so this should be taken with the utmost respect and dignity from what I'm saying here. I think it should have been Florida State, but you also got to understand, and I was always told that if you pay attention in school, it pays off later in life, right? You always say, why do I got to learn this? You're going to learn later in life. Well, as someone who's taken multiple sports marketing and sports business classes, this makes 100%. This is 100% a business standpoint type of thing. You're going to generate more revenue by putting Texas and Alabama in there than you are Texas and Florida State or Florida State and Alabama. No, Florida State and Alabama, that's a different story. You can't put Texas in you can't put Alabama in without Texas. You're going to get more money from Florida State or from Alabama over Florida State. That's just naturally what you're going to get with TV things, whether you like it or not, whether you can agree with it or not. That's just generally what it is. The games they're playing in the Sugar Bowl, which is in New Orleans. That's just you're still in the Alabama territory. Sure, you could, again, Florida State, you could travel. They travel well, whatever. But it's Nick Saban, it's Alabama, more marketable name than Florida State. But now you've caused this uproar. So congratulations, College Football Playoff Committee. I went to that Florida State game, and Florida should have won. I think Florida State fans can look at that game and say, yeah, we looked great, or yeah, we didn't look great. But yes, it's still screw Florida. Well, I think that, a couple things went the other way, and we could win that game, right? So you can look at it that way. Hey, they were a couple plays away from losing this one. Hey, they were a couple plays away from losing this one. But then you can look at the same thing for Alabama as well. It gets very tedious. It gets very controversial. And then you're just sitting here arguing to a brick wall for hours. Florida State fans think they should have been in. The majority of the college football fans think they should have been in. And then you got the Alabama fans who say, we're in the SEC. We deserve to get in. It's a whole mess. That's the issue with college football sometimes. People get too territorial and trying to protect their side because their side is better than the other. It just gets all a mess. But did the playoff committee get it right? No. They did not get it right from a deserving standpoint, right? Matchups. Again, you're going to get a better matchup, Alabama, Michigan, than you probably were Florida State, Michigan. And I like Florida State's defense is really, 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 really solid. No matter what, Jordan Travis getting hurt isn't going to affect this defense, right? So they deserve it. The Florida State defense is going to compete. That offense, not really as much. And if you've been watching the last couple of weeks, Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman have been dropping a lot of passes. They've had some easy targets that they just haven't been able to haul in. They haven't been themselves. Maybe, again, new quarterback, maybe at a little different timing standpoint between the two. So they haven't looked the same maybe a little bit, but that defense is still going to be consistent throughout the entire time. So, again, at the end of the day, it's about a business. It's about creating the most money you can, creating the greatest matchups that you can, and putting on the best show that you can. And obviously getting people to talk about it. boy, you got some people talking about it, I'll tell you what. But outside of that, for the rest of us teams that suck enough to not be a part of this bowl season, this is the scariest time of the year because this transfer portal has taken over the world. It is basically free agency in all of sports. Maybe not MLB free agency because it's moving a little faster than MLB free agency, but transfer portal, coaching carousel, all this is madness. Couple coaching changes. Mike Elko from Duke heading over to Texas A&M to take over after they fired Jimbo Fisher. Jonathan Smith coming over from Oregon State to take over at Michigan State after Mel Tucker got fired this past season. Jeff Lebby, the offensive coordinator at Oklahoma, now at Mississippi State. Who else? I think Fran Brown is the DB coach or the secondary coach at Georgia. Is taking over at Syracuse. I don't who else is even. I think Kurt Kenyetti is taking over at JMU from JMU going to Indiana after Tom Allen. Tim Allen, who the hell knows, got fired. It's their coach. They have to pay $15 million for his buyout. And then one that really surprised me, Willie Fritz, the Tulane head coach, going to Houston. I'm really, really surprised about that after Tulane has had some rumors of Big 12 and ACC partnerships. Really surprised he left there. They've been one of the most consistent group of 5 teams. Obviously, they lost to SMU in the American Conference Championship. That's how you say it. Losing to SMU, Liberty ended up getting that group of 5 bid, but I'm just really surprised he ended up taking that job at Houston. It's a little bit of a program to rebuild, but Houston is a desirable market to get to. So if you can bring the right guys in, you bring your guys in over from Tulane. You could probably bring in Pratt if you want to. I'm sure he can enter the portal. He's probably got 15 years of eligibility if I had to guess. But you can say that about anybody these days. There's so many guys entering the portal. Dylan Gabriel being a surprise into the portal. So many teams, secondaries going in the portal. There's 100 quarterbacks in the portal. I know there's a bunch of Florida players in the portal. Walter Nolan, who was a top recruit in the country just 2 years ago, in the portal now. And it's just become chaos. It's way out of control because you as coaches now have to make sure that you are keeping these players happy the entire year, along with trying to get other players to come and join your program. And there's just too much going on for it to even make any sense. There's 1,183 guys that entered the transfer portal within the first day of the portal opening in the 30-day window. 1,183. We did the math. That is 5%, or is 5.3% of college football players entered the transfer portal on day one. That's just day one. And that's not even adding all the Alabama players, all the Michigan guys, the Texas guys, the Washington guys, hell, the Oregons, all the New Year's Six bowl games, all those teams, all those guys leaving. That's not even factoring any of those guys in, right? Because their seasons aren't over. A lot of teams haven't even had their guys entered in yet. There's going to be guys that enter in. That's just day one. It's gotten out of control. As a guy who goes to a school that's smaller, that could benefit from it a little bit, but also is a loss to it because you get a really good player here at Southern Miss, and they could be gone within the blink of an eye. And that's a scary part. Same being said at Florida, right? You get a really good player, sure, they may play 10 snaps less than you guaranteed them to do, and they're like, nope, I'm done. I'm out of here. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. Some do make sense. Max Brown into the transfer portal. That makes sense. He played his last couple games. He looked good. He looked pretty solid. Some team's going to want to take a shot on him. I'm rooting for him. He's going to be a really good player somewhere else. It's just unfortunate. Graham Mertz is coming back for another year, and a 5-star plus DJ Lagway is coming in at quarterback as well. So you're going to end up being the third-string guy. He saw the writing on the wall. He moved. That's an understandable thing. If a coaching change happens and you move, it's an understandable thing. But we cannot have these kids all enter the transfer portal at once and just be loose, and every team's different every single year because now this puts stress on coaches. How much do we want to prioritize these young freshmen coming in if we can go get a guy who has proven himself for 2 years, or we know this freshman that we're bringing in is just going to up and leave us within the next year or two? It makes no sense. It's very frustrating. There's no loyalty. I know I sound like an old person preaching this, but it's just the truth. It really, really is. And it sucks to see a lot of my favorites go over the years. But it also has benefited to us greatly getting some guys, Ricky Pearsall, Graham Mertz, Cam Jackson, Montrell Johnson. So many guys that have come in and helped us. It has helped for sure. It's just become chaos. It really, really has. But there's 1,000 bowl games. You don't know who's going to play in any of the bowl games. There's guys that are going to transfer right before the bowl game starts. There's guys that are transferring right after the bowl game. It's absolute chaos. This next month and a half of the college football cycle is going to be some of the most important. So get ready for your team to add and subtract a lot of guys because not only is the 30-day portal window open for postseason play, but now signing day is is towards the end of the month, so you got early commitments, early enrollees. It's going to be chaotic in college football, but it's already become most chaos with the college football playoff layout. All right, quickly we're going to go over the other college sport in season right now. That's college basketball. And it just seems like every year as of recent, college basketball just gets more chaotic by the day. And when you think you know a team's good, they go and shit their pants, and everything changes in a direct day, in an immediate second. It all just changes. We last talked. We had Kyle come on and talk and give some of his favorites. It's been a month's time, and all of his favorites just suck ass now. So it's been a very confusing thing that's going on within college basketball. Florida's rough right now. Southern Miss has been rough. Even they were supposed to be one of the better teams in the mid majors, I guess you could say. I don't even know what's going on with how these teams are going every single day. It just seems like a ranked team is losing. Like Purdue lost the other day to Northwestern after being the number one team running the gauntlet. They beat Tennessee, beat Marquette. Like they were just running over teams, and then boom, they lose to Northwestern. All momentum shifted. Right? Your new number one team in the country as of recording is Arizona. I do like this Arizona team a lot. They got a big win at Duke. That was a big win. I really like Keyshawn Johnson of this team. He's a really good hybrid wing guard guy. Caleb Love, obviously the transfer from North Carolina, has been big. Omar Ballo down in the middle. He's been big, a big body for on the glass and paint protection. I like this Arizona team. I think they'll be one of the more consistent teams throughout the entire time. But then again, we talk about some of these other teams that we thought were to be consistent. The Kansases, the UConns, the Purdues. All of them are struggling so far, all having a couple of losses each. UConn getting a win tonight over North Carolina, so that's a big confidence booster for them. They've also struggled with some stuff. Injury-wise, they've dealt with a bunch of injuries. Tristan Newton has been really effective for them, but it's been rough. Donovan Clingan, who was a projected top 10 pick in the draft, just really wasn't as effective at the beginning of the season. He's dealt with some foul trouble. He is a little bigger of a guy, so it's harder for him to kind of run the breaks or get up and down the court and do all the things he can just because his athleticism isn't there. And then Stephon Castle, their top freshman, got hurt in the second game of the season, just made his return tonight off the bench in limited action. So look out for that there. Houston is one of the more consistent teams. They'll be one of the more consistent teams in the Big 12 along with Kansas. LJ Cryer, who they got from Baylor as a transfer, he's been really good. Jamal Shed, who was with this team the past 2 years, I believe, or maybe just last year. He's been awesome as well for them. They just got a bunch of depth. Kelvin Sampson's really, really good as a coach and a leader, so it's all going to go well there. Baylor, we could talk about. They beat Florida, but it took It took Baylor to shoot an insane clip from 3 to be able to beat Florida. And Jacoby Walter, man, I've said his name from the start. I love this guy. He is going to be a top 10 pick in this draft. Any team's going to want this guy. Any team is going to want this guy. And then we'll talk about a team who's struggling and a couple teams that are struggling. Michigan State, one of the teams that are struggling. They just lost to Wisconsin today. Marquette just lost to Wisconsin on Sunday. Looks like if you run into Wisconsin, watch out because those cornfield guys and tractor riders are absolute menaces on the basketball court. Throwback to little Frank the Tank, Sam Decker action. They always produce just some random guy that's just like, hey, he's going to be really, really good. So good luck playing us. It just seems like that's the case every single year with Wisconsin. They take down Michigan State again. Michigan State, I think they have 3 or 4 losses on the season. It's a rough go for Tom Izzo's group. But, again, if there's anything in college basketball I trust, it's a coach. And Tom Izzo's a coach you can trust. Now, talking about another coach, still kind of getting adjusted to his job in his second year is John Shire over at Duke. And Duke has been struggling, but they've lost to good teams until this weekend. They lost to Arizona. They lost to Arkansas in a good game. And then they lose to Texas or Georgia Tech. And it's that one was like, all right, what the hell is happening here? I mean, you just look at the team. You don't have enough production from all of your guys. You can't put together a game against a meaningful team outside of I can't remember, a Michigan State maybe, where you have multiple players all shooting efficiently or all giving you production. It seems like, hey, Filipkowski's on tonight. Tyrese Proctor's going to shoot 2 for 10 from 3. Tyrese is on tonight? Oh, yeah, the rest of your guys are Jared McCain, he's going to suck. Jeremy Roach, he's going to suck and foul out. Like, it's just, like, it doesn't seem like you're getting the consistent play that you are from everybody. Again, early on in the season, you can't overreact to everything, but welcome to sports, you overreact about everything. College basketball is crazy. Year-round, it gets even crazier, and we are just in December. It's only December. We sleep in May, as John Rothstein likes to say. It only gets crazier as the conference play starts here. Some of the conferences are starting up right now, but into January time frame is when it all kicks off. And over the holiday season, we get some insane matchups going on. So college football or college basketball, absolutely insane to keep track of this time of year. And the last thing I want to talk about here is the MLB. And again, I'm a big baseball guy. I know not a lot of you are big baseball fans, but when it comes to the best player in baseball and one of the best players in history being up for grabs, it's time to tune in. Shohei Ohtani, big free agent. He obviously is having surgery to where he will not be able to pitch this next year, but he will be a DH for a team, and any contending team is wanting this guy. The issue is he's wanting upwards of $500 million. But he's Shohei Ohtani. It's probably worth it, I'd say. You got a list of teams that all want him. He's narrowed it down reportedly. He doesn't like anything getting leaked out. We don't know what this guy wants. But what we do know is that he had a meeting with the Dodgers, according to Dave Roberts, and he had a meeting with the Toronto Blue Jays. And people are saying that the Toronto Blue Jays could be a sneaky team to watch out for when it comes to signing Shohei Ohtani. And I hate that he's going to be in my division, but if you're the Toronto Blue Jays, you got to love this. The unfortunate part, this means Bo Bichette or Vladimir Guerrero are going to end up having to go because you can't pay all 3 of them, unfortunately. So one of them are going to have to go, which sucks. But getting Shohei Ohtani, 100% worth it from a business standpoint, from a marketing standpoint. You could easily make that money back with him being there. As some people have broken down. I know Pat Light, former pro pitcher, not the greatest pitcher of all time, but former pitcher for the Red Sox, kind of broke down kind of how the money would work, how much revenue you would generate from ticket sales, merchandise, TV rights in Japan. Like all of this type of stuff you would gain from by getting Shohei Ohtani. But, other teams, we know the Dodgers won them, the Blue Jays won them, the Giants won them, the Yankees won them, the Mets won them. Everybody wants Shohei Ohtani. The Cubs won him. The Red Sox wanted him until they realized he's costing a lot of money. So it's a sweepstakes. And the unfortunate part about this, kind of like how it sometimes is in the NBA with a lot of deals, everyone's waiting for the one deal to happen, for the floodgates to open. And there's been a lot of rumors about trades. Tyler Glass now may be on the move. Lucas Giolito waiting to sign. Yoshinobu Yamamoto is ready to sign. But everyone's waiting for Shohei Ohtani to sign so that everybody can see what's the market value for him, what team wants him, and how are these other teams going to pivot to get these guys. So you're going to see a lot of guys wait to get a contract. The main guy I just mentioned, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, coming over from Japan, 25 years old, has won the Japanese Cy Young. I forget what the name of it is, but it is the similarity of the Cy Young in Japan like 3 times already. Like he has thrown like 10 no-hitters. He is absolutely insane. He's going to be getting $200 to almost upward to $300 million. I hope the Red Sox are the one paying him that money. Sounds like we're really interested. Sounds like the Yankees are really pushing hard on that as well. Same with the Mets, the Giants. All these teams are really wanting Yamamoto. I know the Red Sox said that it's priority number 1 for them to get him. But also with the Red Sox, I thought it was going to be a calm night. We got some Seth Lugo rumors that he was going to sign. Maybe some Lourdes Gurriel rumors. All these different role players having rumored signed. Maybe going to be signing with the Red Sox. And then Jeff Passan of ESPN at 8 o'clock decides, hey, we're going to rock Alex's world real quick by trading Alex Verdugo. The Boston Red Sox are trading Alex Verdugo to the New York Yankees. And my first reaction is like, why the hell are we trading with the Yankees? My second thought was Alex Verdugo hates the Yankees, so that's the last place you want him to be. My third thought is Alex Verdugo getting flipped in another trade because there's no way this guy's playing for the damn Yankees. Follow-up to the follow-up to the follow-up. Why the hell are we trading with the Yankees? This has only happened a couple of times in history. Adam Ottavino and Babe Ruth. Like it just doesn't happen. The Red Sox and Yankees don't make trades because I hate the Yankees more than anything else in life. I hate Florida State with a passion, but you heard my speech. You will never hear me upward talk towards the Yankees. It is always talking down on them. I will never give credit to the Yankees for anything. So this pains me a lot. Even though Alex Verdugo had some character issues, got benched multiple times, seemed like he was ready to go, or his agents were telling him he's ready to go. It was inevitable he was going to be moved this offseason. He's been moved. He's been moved to the division rival, and more importantly, your biggest rival. Whether he stays there or not, up in the air. I know the Yankees want a left-handed bat. The Red Sox had a clog in the outfield of young talent. You got rid of Verdugo. Now you've got Duran, you've got Yoshida. You're still going to maybe go get another guy. You got Willie Abreu, who you like a lot. Ceddanne Rafaela, who's awesome as well. But you got a mix of all these guys that you really never know who you're truly going to get. And you wonder, what are you getting for Alex Verdugo? It's got to be something good, right? Oh, only Greg Weissert, a 28-year-old reliever. He's got an insane slider. Nicholas Judas, a guy who was literally drafted this year. And Richard Fitz, a.k.a. Dick Fitz. Now, I just want to make a comment. His family set him up for failure, but if Dick Fitz becomes the best player on the Boston Red Sox, I will buy a Dick Fitz jersey, and I'll make sure his full name is on the back, Dick Fitz. I'm all in on being able to trade Verdugo for Dick Fitz. Again, his name actually isn't Dick, it's Richard, but it's Dick Fitz. There's no way he's not going to be Dick Fitz around this fan base. But the big part about this, it's hard to part with Alex Verdugo because you're basically saying, hey, we traded Mookie Betts for Dick Fitz because Alex Verdugo was the prized possession in that Mookie Betts trade. And now he got traded for the 12th best prospect in the Yankees organization. And now you're stuck with a bunch of other bullshit. And now you don't really know what direction you're going besides starting pitching. I love Craig Breslow, the new general manager, chief baseball officer, president of baseball. I don't know what the hell the title is. I love Craig Breslow. I really, really do. This is a bold move as your first move as a GM of the Red Sox. This is a bold statement. Now, go make an even bolder statement. Sign a guy like Yamamoto. Sign a guy like Jordan Montgomery. Sign a Blake Snell. Sign a Cody Bellinger at shit at this point. Go trade for Juan Soto. Go trade for that guy, this guy, Corbin Burns, Dylan Cease, whoever. There's so many guys out in the market that are available to be traded for. Dylan Cease being one of them. That is a big one to get traded for. Juan Soto, we just talked about. Rumor to the Yankees, rumor to the Blue Jays, rumor to the Red Sox. You never really know what you're going to get out of that. Dylan Cease, probably the biggest name to trade for out of the pitching because he has the most team control. I do fear if you are a team that is wanting Dylan Cease that he will be going to the Atlanta Braves probably. He's from the area, and the Braves have just made it a hard push to be able to get him. They also looking after Corbin Burns, Lucas Giolito in free agency, looking to trade for Shane Bieber. There's so many guys just out there that teams are willing to make expendable. Apparently, the Rays are making Randy Arozarena expendable, which I never thought I'd see the day that happens. It's so much chaos, but the unfortunate part about this chaos is controlled. And I don't like controlled chaos. I like absolute mayhem. And the MLB free agency is not mayhem. Normally winter meetings is mayhem. Winter meetings are this week. This is normally when you get all of the trades, all of the signings, a lot of this shit, but I mean, now I just got Dick Fitz for Alex Verdugo, so I don't know what's the next move. Are we gonna go sign like Ben Dover? Maybe. I don't know. I've been talking long enough. I'm making sex jokes at this point. That's enough for me this week. You've heard enough of my voice. Again, I appreciate you guys always for listening. I know it's been a while. And I promise I'm going to be more consistent. Things are going to be up and rolling for me a little bit more here during the holiday season, being able to record and stuff like that. Like I said, if Shohei Ohtani signs tomorrow with the Toronto Blue Jays, just know it's the curse of your Sports Digest. It's what we do here. It's what makes us special, and it gets with the viewers to come back, I guess. Appreciate you guys as always. I'll see you guys maybe next week. Maybe next week. I'm kidding. You'll see me next week. Maybe earlier than then. We'll find out. I'm Alex McNinch, and you got your Sports Digest.